Check out carmarshal.com. The link is in the description. They help support us.
It may be a first in Chicago. 15 men exonerated of their crimes on the same day. Their felony drug convictions tossed 4 years after a corrupt officer's investigations were first called into question.
These cases, we concluded that unfortunately the police were not being truthful, and we couldn't have confidence in the integrity of their reports and their testimony. And so in good conscience, we could not see these convictions stand.
Leonard Gibson says Officer Ronald Watts framed him and took years away from his life.
I went to jail and did 2 years, 24 months for Watts. I came back home and put another case on me.
In 2013, Watts, then a Chicago police sergeant, was sentenced to 22 months in prison after pleading guilty to theft of government funds. An FBI-led investigation showed Watts and another officer stole money from a federal drug informant. The conviction has led to a review of hundreds of cases. Gibson, like many other men whose cases were exonerated, says Watts planted evidence on him.
If you're not going to pay Watts, you're going to jail.
CNN was unable to reach Watts for comment.
It is the prime example of the phrases that we hear, the thin blue line, the code of silence. Never, I've been doing this work for close to 15 years. There is no case, no situation that I have ever seen that comes close to exemplifying the code of silence than this one.
Ben and Clarissa Baker spent 10 years apart as Ben sat in prison.
It's torture, like, because you thinking in your head every day, like, how did this happen? Well,
both faced drug charges connected to the rogue officer. At the time, no one would hear their cries of innocence.
No one would listen?
No.
What would they tell you?
There's nothing we can do. You need to call your alderman. Did that, wrote the alderman, talked to the FBI.
Help arrived in 2015 when lawyers with the Exoneration Project took on Ben's case and helped overturn his conviction.
Now I finally really feel vindicated.
The Chicago Police Department tells CNN 7 more officers have been placed on administrative duty, while the department's Internal Affairs Unit looks into other cases connected to Sergeant Ronald Watts' team. Ryan Young, CNN Chicago.
"15 men exonerated in one day and 7 Chicago cops taken off the street." By Ryan Young, CNN. Updated 12:37 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturday, November 18, 2017. Chicago, CNN. The drug convictions of 15 men in Chicago have been thrown out after they claimed they were framed years earlier by a police sergeant, who went to prison for a related crime, and his team of officers. The dismissal of charges against the men, who together had 18 convictions, is believed to the first ever mass exoneration in Cook County, the nation's second most populous county. In these cases, we concluded, unfortunately, the police were not being truthful, and we couldn't have confidence in the integrity of their reports and their testimony, and so, in good conscience, we could not see these convictions stand, Mark Rodert of the Cook County Conviction Integrity Unit said in a news conference. 7 other officers have been placed on desk duty pending an internal review of more incidents, the Chicago Police Department told CNN. Those officers all worked under Watts, CNN affiliate WBBM reported. Rodert, of the state's attorney's office, said his team is now reviewing additional cases connected to drug convictions spanning several years. They would frame them. The men whose charges were tossed alleged that Watts and his team of officers planted drugs on them during arrests between 2003 and 2008, then falsified police reports, leading to their convictions, according to the Exoneration Project, a free legal clinic at the University of Chicago Law School that presented the cases to county prosecutors. A Cook County judge on Thursday approved prosecutors' decision to drop the charges. All the men had served their sentences for the crimes in question. According to the Exoneration Project, 14 are free, and one remains incarcerated on unrelated charges. One of the men, Leonard Gibson, said he was framed by Watts on drug charges and went to jail twice because of the officer. If you're not gonna pay Watts, you were going to jail, Gibson recalled. I went to jail and did 2 years and 24 months for Watts. I came home, and he put another case on me. Gibson's attorney, Joshua Tepfer of the Exoneration Project, said officers took money from and charged dozens of people for crimes they did not commit. They were skimming off people, and anyone who would get in their way, they would frame them, he told CNN. And anyone who tried to report them, they would frame them. Watts and then Officer Khallat Mohammed pleaded guilty in federal court in 2013 and 2012, respectively, in connection with stealing money from a drug suspect who turned out to be an FBI informant. Watts was sentenced to 22 months in prison, Mohammed got 18 months. CNN could not immediately reach Watts or Mohammed, who both have served their sentences ongoing, systemic, day-to-day corruption. It wasn't until the summer of 2015, though, that Tepfer, the law clinic attorney, learned of the case of Ben Baker and started investigating. What I learned is what Ben Baker said happened to him, that he was framed by this officer who was named Sergeant Ronald Watts, and what I learned right away was that Ronald Watts had been convicted federally of exactly what Ben said had happened to him, being shaken down and framing someone for putting drugs on someone. I started to look into it, and what we slowly realized, this was ongoing, systemic, day-to-day corruption by not just Sergeant Watts and not just by his federally convicted co-defendant, Officer Khallat Mohammed, but by a whole crew of officers that went on with impunity for over a decade on the Southside Chicago housing projects. Baker was freed last year after nearly 10 years in prison when the state's attorney dropped drug charges that Baker claimed were concocted by Watts and his crew, CNN affiliate Well reported. It was torture, Baker told CNN of his jail time. You're thinking in your head, how did this happen? How did I go from laying next to my wife and going out with my kids every day to being in the cell every day? Baker last year filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against the city of Chicago and 17 officers for framing him and covering it up for the decade he sat in prison. The suit also alleges that a code of silence within the Chicago Police Department allowed Watts to run an extortion ring with impunity.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County Cop Watch, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheep up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Charlotte County Cop Watch with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say actually yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where at least I can do it. 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt free. So This is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is, you know, if I got, you know, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here, and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. You know, 47,000 of you so far right now. You know, $1 a day. I mean, $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.